just nuts. But I don't know. I've always been into like the dark look with the heavy metal and stuff my whole life. When I was in junior high, I got picked on a lot, and I would go and chill by myself alone and watch like Friday the 13th or just horror movies and stuff. And I'd have like fantasies about like going to the school and like hacking up my friends. And I'm serious. Like I was so depressed, and I would think about that, like, because I couldn't fight. You know, I couldn't fight back, and my dad was like pretty angry if we didn't do stuff right. And whenever someone else, kids or whoever, would get angry or whatever around me, and I'd cower like my dad, because he would get angry and he'd yell, he'd say, "Go to your room," and I have to walk past him, and I expect to get hit, but he never hit me. I almost wished he would have like, you know, whacked me a little bit to make me tougher, but whatever. So I dove into music instead of hacking up my teenage kids. You know, it was a good choice. So I went into music, and I learned how to play guitar, and I got pretty good at it. And all throughout high school, I met some musicians that I would later get into a big band with, and we jammed and had some little funny bands, like one band called Toy, and we had the big hair and stuff, and we were doing whatever was cool with metal, you know, because that was like our music, that was our life, and we got good enough where we could actually play and sound decent, you know. And I mean, if I listen to it now, I mean, I wouldn't let you guys hear it, but back then it was like decent. So I don't know, we played in bands, you know, and broke up and got in another band and stuff, and most of my friends got into this other music, like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and they split to L.A., and they formed this band called LAPD, and I was like, man, that music sucks. I want to play metal. What are they doing? So, you know, long story short, within a couple of years, I moved down there to L.A., and music started to change. Alice in Chains came out and stuff like that, Faith No More, and more of a darker sound that I liked. So they asked me to join the band, so I hooked back up with my friends, and it was just nuts, man. It was like, I mean, here's what happened, really. This is a real deal with KoRn. I joined a band called Creep with these guys, and right before they asked me, I was done. I was broke. I was stealing drum machines because I worked for this electronics company, and I was just barely making it. So I called my dad, and I said, "Dad, I want to work at Chevron with you," because he owned Chevron, and I was like, "I'm cutting my hair, you know, whatever," because he used to always get on me about my hair, and I said, "I'm going to go home and work for you. I'm sick of being broke." And within a week before I was supposed to move, these guys asked me to join the band. We got Jonathan Davis, a singer, and we got signed a year later. It was just like, as my life could have went one way, and I could have had this boring like Bakersfield life, but I took this other road, and I just went crazy. I mean, KoRn got signed. We started touring. We started playing in front of good crowds, and our record was, you know, slowly going. We started selling 1,100 a week in the beginning, and that was a lot for us. You know, I was like, "Whoa, wow, this is pretty cool." People were asking for autographs, you know, and then all of a sudden we get better tours like Marilyn Manson, Danzig, and Megadeth. And then after Megadeth, we were selling like 5,000 copies a week. We're on tour with Ozzy, and that was like my hero. You know, when I was a kid, I had posters of him all over my wall, so I was like, this guy's coming to my dressing room and stuff. I can't understand what he's saying, but he's Ozzy. I don't even care, you know? And it's like surreal life, you know? And we were just partying. I remember early on being in the band, and we're like, after the show was like awesome on stage. It just felt so good. And then after the show, it's like it was all about, you know, partying and getting drunk and getting girls and just, you know, living the rock star life. But it was just, there was a darkness about it that I didn't, because when I was a kid, like my uncle used to tell me, you know, you just want the girls. That's why you want to be a rock. I was like, and I got mad at him. I was like, no, I love music. You know, I don't want to be rich or whatever. I just want to play music because I love music, you know. And when I got out there and saw all the stuff going on with the coke, which I participated in because that was what you do, and it just, you could feel a darkness, you know. And it was like you woke up feeling like crap every day, and you know, some people were worse than others. You know, one guy in the band was like, he got hooked on what's that black licorice stuff, that Jägermeister, and we were sponsored by Jaeger, and they'd bring all these bottles, and he would get so drunk that he just punch us like at night or go after us. And one night he was in the bus and he threw up because drinking like a whole bottle to himself. And then to make us like gross out, he picked up his puke and started drinking it and stuff like that. And that one's for the ladies. It's just, I'm telling you, that's what this life does to you. You act like an idiot, man, and it's like, and we kept doing it. We kept waking up with the hangovers and just being stupid, man. But it was cool playing the shows, but we just got bigger and bigger. And my friend Matt over here, he reminded me, I haven't seen him in so long. Last time I saw him, we were doing a show in New York City, and like just all this, we got so big. MTV took us, started playing our videos. We got #1 on TRL. That was like the show back then, and we played at the Apollo Theater, like the first rock band to play there, and like all these, like Chris Rock showed up, and like surreal life. I'm this kid from Bakersfield, a little town, and here's these big stars. Who else was it? Like Russell Simmons, Busta Rhymes, Puff Daddy. All these guys were watching my little old band from Bakersfieldians, and and I'm like just tripping out in life, and the checks were coming in, but just my personal life was slipping because of the alcohol and the drugs, and it just wasn't all what I thought it was going to be, And I got married around that time. I had a kid, and me and my wife would fight all the time because we were trying to, party, and I thought my money and my success could buy our happiness, but it just didn't do it, I was like, when we got married, it was cool, but after a while, it was like she was like, I want a husband, I want someone to be home with me and my daughter, and I was like, well, you want that fat house and that Lincoln Navigator? Do you want me to work at Taco Bell? What? It's like, let's be thankful for what we got, but it just never, like, you got to connect, you got to be in love, and you got to have a relationship, and that never happened. And when I came home, I would drink and stuff because I'd either like shake from the alcohol withdrawals or drink, so I just decided to drink. And my daughter would look at me, I remember in the beginning, and just like, she'd be nervous because she didn't know who I was, the first couple of years of my life, and that broke my heart. But crack open a beer and that pain goes away. That's how it was, just drink the pain away. And so our marriage started to sink and stuff, and we just kept touring. KoRn is just the managers just put us on the road and tour. That's the dream. You got to go out and play the shows, and it's hard, man. It's not what you think it is. It becomes like Groundhog's Day. You go to I don't know if you guys seen that movie, Bill Murray, but it's the same day over and over, and when you're partying and stuff, you lose the perspective that you're connecting with your fans and stuff. It's just like, oh man, another show, another party after the show, another drug dealer, another hangover the next day, another that crappy show food they bring in, and it's just a different bed, and you just get a lonely feeling out there. But the drugs just started overtaking me, and me and my wife would fight a lot after a while because she was like sick of me. I was just sick of being gone, and when I would come home, she would watch the baby, so I'd come home like through a tour or something. She'd come to the show, and like when I was on stage, she'd get wasted, and then I would get mad at her and stuff, and we would get into physical fights, and she would clock me when she got mad at me. This girl grew up in that type of house, so she would, we'd argue, and she'd just go and crack me. She made my nose bleed like one time in the tour bus, and it's just crazy stuff. And I kind of fell into that, and I ended up punching her one time in the face, and just her blood was pouring out her nose like right in front of me. I was like, oh man, what did I do? Another time I threw a phone at the back of her head and like cracked her head open, and the cops got called by the neighbor because he heard like all this nutty stuff was going on, man. And she ended up leaving. She got hooked up with a skinhead guy. And it's crazy when I tell the story. It's like it's not like, I say this my testimony a lot, but I can feel it and I can see it every time. So it just becomes real. But yeah, this guy, like, he was a skinhead, and he I remember I was on tour with Metallica and Kid Rock, and I was flying on Metallica's plane, like, living the best, like the biggest in the metal life that you could ever live, and but at the same time, my heart was breaking because I know that our relationship was like tore up, and she was acting very strange. And she called me on that tour and said, I'm leaving. There's nothing you could say or do, and I'm done. And she took off. I said, I'm coming home. We're going to work this out. She said, no, we're not. I'm out of here if you come home. And I said, well, I want to see my baby. And she goes, well, okay, I'll leave the baby with a babysitter, and you could see the baby, and then leave her when you leave, just like basically I'm not going to see you. So I came home, and I didn't even know the babysitter. She hired a babysitter, and I opened the door, and it's this 17-year-old girl, and she left, our baby with her, and I was like, wow. So I was there, and while I was there, I got a call from my ex-wife's mom, and she said, she just showed up at my house with a bunch of skinhead dudes, and they are wrecking stuff up, and they're on speed, and you got to take your baby and go. So right then, I took my baby. I became a single dad, and I had to get clean. And by getting clean, I stopped doing coke, and I drank every night. But because I don't know, I hid my drugs or drinking really well. I could have a 6-pack of 12 beers, and you couldn't even really tell I had anything. So that was me getting sober. But I tried to get sober. I tried to let the drugs go, and little by little, they'd creep back in. Within a couple of years, I swore that I wouldn't do speed ever again because I saw what it did with those skinheads and my ex-wife, and I thought that she was a scumbag and just a piece of dirt, and I wanted her dead. I wanted him dead, and I was just raging, man. And then one night, I was drinking a couple years later, and I was hanging out with a friend, and we were drinking some beers, and he talked about speed, and he's like, oh, I can get some meth down the road. And I was like, all right, just once. Just one night. And then the next weekend came around. I was like, all right, just one more. I'm going to tour, and I won't do no more. And right before tour, I got some 8 balls of meth, and I just started a 2-year addiction right then. I just started snorting it. And I don't know, man. It's just my life wasn't what I thought it was going to be, man. And I took it all over the world. I took the drugs. I took it to Asia, Europe, New Zealand, Australia, all that stuff, and no one knew in my band that I was doing meth. And I would just hang out by myself a lot, and they would try to get me to hang out with them. And I don't know, I sunk into this deep depression, and I didn't really care if I lived or died, but I wanted to get clean from my daughter, but I was miserable. I was like, okay, I'm going to get clean, then I'm going to be miserable rock star, and I'm going to raise my kid to be a miserable person because I got everything I ever want. I got $3 million in the bank. I got the house, everything, and I'm not happy. And I tried to quit drinking a few times or partying, but I didn't feel right, and I didn't feel no peace or nothing. So I was like, all right, well, I'm either going to die or I'm going to give it a shot. So I tried to get clean and sober. I went to this shrink that helped people with drugs and stuff, and I couldn't get off it, man, and I was just desperate. And I had these friends that were in Bakersfield, California. I'd moved back then. I moved back there around that time, and they were Christians, but I didn't know what that meant really, because these guys, this guy built monster trucks, he was cool, and he never talked about Jesus, but his wife was all spiritual. So I was like, I'm going to go hang with him. He's not nuts like one of those other Christian crazy people. So I went and hung with him, and I went to church with him, and the pastor was there, and he's talking about, I was up all night doing lines, and he said, the pastor said, if you just hang out with Jesus and you talk to him, the things in your life will start to fall away. The desires will leave, and one by one, they'll just fall away. He's like, there's no condemnation, and you don't got to be afraid to come to God like that. And I was like, whoa. I thought you'd have to clean up and then go to God. So I received Jesus that night, and that morning, and I went home after that, and I got in my closet, and I had all these 8 balls of crystal meth, and I snorted a big old line, and I just got real, I just go, Lord, I don't know if you're real or whatever, but that guy said if you just hang out with you and talk to you, then you'll start to take these things away. And I go, I don't end up like my ex-wife, and then my daughter have to be without a dad if I died or something. And I said, I go, check my heart right now, I just really want to get off these drugs, and that was it. And then after a couple of weeks, I was like, wondering if it was real or not. Started getting phone calls, and people were giving me scriptures of the same scripture as Matthew 11:28. I got it on my neck right here, the tattoo. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. And I was like, well, is this real? What is this? Is this stuff real? And one night I was sitting there with my Bible on my lap, and I was looking through scriptures, and it seemed like every scripture I read, like it was talking to me. And I was like, man, this book is like alive or something. It's freaking me out. But I didn't realize it was the Holy Spirit. But I had a presence come over me when I was reading that Bible that day. And it was so strong. It was so thick. It was so real. It was like just love poured into me and all around me. And I looked up and I was shaking, and I just said, God, is this you? And at that moment, I realized that God loves me more than any person on this planet could ever love me. And he gave me what he gave me inside my soul, behind the skin, where life really is for each one of us. He gave me satisfaction and contentment and perfect, like for that moment, I felt like perfect pleasure. And I was a mess, like for 2 years doing meth, and I just felt nothing but peace. And right at that moment, I was like, God is real. And the next day, I went and threw like eight balls of crystal meth in the toilet. I called my friend over, and it was just like, I just said, God, I'm done. This is it. And when I felt that presence, man, I was telling other Christians and stuff, and they were like, "Whoa, Brian, you're not gonna feel stuff like that. It's just you just clean your life up and you stop doing the bad things." And I was like, "No, I felt like God come around me. And they're like, "Oh," I could see in his eyes, like, "Yeah, he snorted one too many." And but it was so real, man. It was so real. And when God reveals himself to you, I think he does that, and the feeling pulls away, but he wants to see what you're going to do with it, And at that time, KoRn had a big old record deal. It was going to be $25 million deal. And that meant like, $2-3 million for me. Our managers were known for just getting these crazy deals. And so I had a question mark right there. I had a decision to make. I was like, okay, am I going to do this and stay in KoRn? Or am I going to, cut it right now? If I leave right now, man, I got to say goodbye to those millions, And that was my thing. Money was my thing. I was broke before KoRn, and I was like, I'm never going to be broke again. I did good investments. I was like making hundreds of thousands of dollars in real estate, and I wanted more money just so I could chill and not have to worry. But I just felt God tell me, are you going to serve money? Are you going to serve me? What are you going to do now? And I just got so much strength in me just to be bold and to stand up and say, you know what? I'm going to quit right now, and I'm going to say no to that $3 million that I'm going to get, and I'm not going to tour like crazy, and I'm going to look at my daughter. I'm going to say, baby, I'm quitting KoRn, and I'm going to be home with you, and I'm going to raise you like I should. And I was set free, man. I'm telling you, all that work, it's so real, all that work, and there's nothing like, people are like, I'm just dove into God like he's the ocean, and I just went all the way head first. And some people like to get their little bitty toes wet, and I dove right in. People are like, well, hey, didn't you just change, your drugs and stuff for religion? And you know what, man? All I know is that I like to be high, and that's why I got high all the time, because I'm made for something, and I was trying to get drunk and do drugs to get that feeling, but it never completed me. I could never fill up good enough. And I'm sorry for any religious people in here, but God his presence is real, and he makes you feel so high, like higher than you'll ever feel off any drugs or anything, and it's just it's so powerful, man. And some people well, I don't feel that, or, well, you know what? This is when you're going to feel it. When you lay down and put your old life in a grave and you die to your old life, and you say everything, I'm going to change everything, and I'm going to die to this, and I'm going to fight to lay this stuff down, because it's going to keep popping up, whatever. God doesn't share things with the world, and he wants you to put that stuff down so he can give you the spiritual life from heaven, man. I mean, it's a trip. I did a lot of drugs, man, and that stuff was just crazy, but this is so much more funner, man, and people don't get that. people don't get it that you don't give up your stuff, your party stuff, and then you're bored. You know, if you're stuck in a dead religious church, I mean, that'll happen, but not in the life I live, man. My life is brand new, and everything's new, and it's awesome. And, you know, there's challenges in this life. There's a lot of challenges. But it's like, I mean, I pray dangerous prayers, man. I was like, God, take this stuff out of me and take the desires of the world. And you know, it talks about the Holy Spirit's fire, how they'll burn stuff away burn the chaff and burn just the stuff in you. And in order to do that, God will allow like negative circumstances to happen in your life. And all these emotions will rise up and say, oh, man, I just got sued for, this is my life. I'm not saying you're going to get sued. But I made some stupid decisions. I got sued for like $200,000 and in my car. Like just bad stuff was happening to me, like I was cursed or something. And all these emotions rising up, and I was just freaking out. And every time they rose, like it seemed like God would cut that off, like the top of a beer. I mean, sorry to use that as a picture, but like the foam, and just get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it. And now I'm such a new person. I can go through trials and stuff, and it's just like I'm strong, you know. And it's all about that life behind our skin, you know. And He'll make you the strongest person. I'm ready for anything right now. I'm ready for blessings. I'm ready for my new life. I'm ready for tragedies to happen because God made me a rock, you know. And I'm going to be strong for my family when we go through things. And all of us are going to go through tragedies. And are we going to crumble and break and crack when we go through them? Or are we going to be strong, you know? And God will make you strong if you just let him. And I'm just happy to be a part of this stuff that these guys are doing. They were doing it before I got here. And our hopes and prayers is that we can come and rock this stuff, because I'm not no trained speaker. I just want to come and play music. That's what I do. So I just hope that you guys can catch the vision and just spread it like a fire around this part so we can bring this concert, you know. It's unlike anything else. And we're the real deal. You know, I'm a changed man, just like they said. We're all changed, and we're not in this for nothing but to touch lives, you know what I'm saying? And we're not going to throw no religious crap on no one, you know. We're just going to say, look, you know, I was this. You just heard me. I was that. And now I'm this now. God did it. And I'm not even playing. I'm tripping out on it still. I still trip out on it, you know. And I hope to see you guys at that huge concert when we do it. So thank you.